Hello everybody, I am Hetsko and today I'm back with a brand new video. Today we're reviewing not Doctor Who, a different show, but written by the wonderful Russell T Davies. Years and Years is a TV drama on BBC One, I think it was. It's on BBC iPlayer now, so if you haven't seen it, I'm going to be spoiling it. And believe me, you do not want it spoiled. It's a fantastic show. Go and watch it on BBC iPlayer. It's only 6 episodes and it's fantastic. Today, the day after the finale, we're going to just review the whole thing, talk about it, my favourite bits, my least favourite bits I liked, didn't like, character breakdowns of each person, each episode, and give my overall thoughts on the series. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So we'll start off with what is Years and Years. Well, Years and Years is a sort of kitchen sink family drama. It follows a particular family, the Lyons family, and it starts pretty much on the day episode 1 was aired, so like 2019, on that day, and then it jumps 5 years in the future and shows the family 5 years after that, in 2024 I think it is, might be wrong in that, and then every episode after that it goes forward another year, and by the end of the series it's gone forward 10 years from now, so it's 2029 by the end of the series. I mean, technically it goes all the way to 2032, but that's the idea of it. The concept is it's showing a family and going through life as UK citizens all the way through the next 10 years. And it shows the struggles, it shows the future. And it's really hard to kind of describe, but you know how like Back to the Future was like a thing where it showed the future and it was like, oh, flying cars and all that sort of thing and hoverboards. This isn't like that. This is so much better than that, because every second you're watching this TV show, whether it be 5 years in the future, whether it be 7 years in the future, whether it be 10 years in the future, you're watching and you're going, this is realistic. I could see this happening. Like, you'd hope it wouldn't happen, a lot of it, but it's scary. And I think especially the ending of the first episode, which we'll get onto, it gives you that sort of feeling of, oh god, this could actually happen. Like this could happen in 5 years' time. You know, this isn't out the realms of possibility here. This could happen. And that feeling, you know, of watching something which is, you know, because in the future you can, you know, in sci-fi and all that sort of thing, you can watch certain things happen to certain characters, but this is a family. It makes them relatable and it attaches you as a viewer to the family. So when something happens that's bigger than the family, like, for example, in episode 1, where the nuclear missile gets launched from America to hit Hongsha in China, and you're looking at it and you're hearing the emergency broadcast tone and all that sort of thing, and you are in the situation with the family, you're scared, and you're sitting there going, this is horrifying, you don't want this to ever happen. But you're feeling that because you're so attached to the family, even from one episode. So, yeah, it's a fantastic show, but we'll break it down episode by episode. I think that's probably best. And give my thoughts on each episode and how I felt overall with each one. So episode 1 starts with getting an introduction to the whole family. Muriel, who we'll talk about characters and actors and all that sort of thing towards the end of the video, but Muriel is sort of like the grandparent to all of these. She's the grandmother to all of the other characters, pretty much. The 4 siblings, Edith, Danny, Stephen and Rosie, I got it, that's good. Their mother has died and their dad left their family a long time ago to live and, you know, be with someone else. So that's their kind of family vibe. They've all got their own individual families. There's 4 siblings. They've all got, well, not all of them have kids, but, you know, a couple of them are married. Edith is off somewhere else in Vietnam. You know, Rosie's had 2 kids, but, you know, is a single mother. Danny's got a husband. And, you know, Stephen's got a wife and 2 kids. And that's the kind of vibe you get straight away, is that it is just a family. Everyone's different. And what I just want to point out quickly is brilliant in terms of representation. Now, I don't always go on about this in terms of media and all that sort of thing, especially in TV shows, but fantastically done here. The fact that you've got, out of the 4 siblings, you've got Stephen, who is the straight man, you know, the average family, 2 kids, wife, all that sort of thing. Danny is gay. He has 2 partners throughout the whole series, and he's a fabulously done character. He's brilliantly done, lovable and fantastic, and which makes it even more heartbreaking when we get to episode 4, which we'll talk about again. Edith is also gay and has, you know, a relationship which develops towards the end of the series, mostly episode 5 and 6. There's hints of it through episodes 3 and 4-ish, but it's not really solidified until the end, which is good, because again it shows that mix of representation. Again, I love that. And then Rosie And Rosie is wonderfully played by an actress who actually is in a wheelchair. So her character's in a wheelchair, and again, there's the disability representation. So you've got a mix of all different types of people in the 4 siblings, and then you've got the typical grandmother, Muriel. So I think it's great, first of all, just to point that out. I love that. I love the fact that that is so cleverly done, because it's not in your face, it's not smacking you around the head all the time, it's just there. It's just there, it's respectful, it's real, and it's just representative of the society we're in today, and it's wonderful. So anyway, it starts with Rosie giving birth to her second child, Lincoln Lyons, before it jumps to 5 years. And there's a few things in this episode. We'll talk about the transhuman thing. So Bethany, Stephen's daughter, isn't transgender, but she wants to be transhuman. She doesn't want to be in this body anymore, and she wants to. And it's great because although you can look at that and go, "Oh, that's a bit odd," that's a bit a bit far-fetched, a bit futuristic. It's not, because I think if that technology was available, there'd be people who would probably feel that way and probably would want to go through that. And I feel that's quite an interesting aspect to be explored, because the initial thing is like, that's a bit odd. And that's why I wouldn't have put it in the trailers. They did it, they put it in every bloody trailer, and they used it as like a clip that they put on the BBC YouTube channel, which I thought was a bit stupid. I think they should have kept that to the episode, because that can put people off because it sounds a little bit far-fetched, but actually in the context of the episode, when you're watching it, it works a lot better. And I really like that. There's a lot of stuff going on in this episode. This episode just introduces you to every character. And the episode ends with the missile. So Trump launches a missile to a Chinese island of Hongqiao. I think that's how you pronounce it. Might be wrong on that one. But Edith, who's in Vietnam, who's a sort of reporter, sort of journalist, activist type thing, she FaceTimes the rest of the family who are enjoying a family thing. And it's funny because you see the family are so detached from everything. They're not on the TVs, they're not on their phones, so they're not actually seeing all the emergency broadcasts that are going on. And Edith's trying to tell them, like, are you okay? Are you fine? That sort of thing. And they're all like, yeah, we're great. Wonderful, wonderful moment when the realisation kicks in that they're all in trouble. And they all do start panicking. But what's so chilling is the air raid siren. And I think the ending of the first episode is so perfectly done, because until the ending I was a bit like, yeah, this is kind of alright, kind of drama type thing, it's alright. But the ending of episode 1, that is when I was like, oh, right, now I know what I'm in for. This is terrifying, but I love it. It's fantastically done, and I can appreciate that in terms of a drama, but it is terrifying, the concept of having that sort of feeling of something, a weapon being launched, and you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to be hit. You don't know if you're going to be hit in retaliation, or all that sort of thing. You don't know if you're involved, or whether you're in war, or what's going on. And that aspect of unknown is just so terrifying to me. At the end of episode 1, the whole panic thing happens. Danny runs away from his husband to get with a refugee on a camp that he's actually working for. So he works for the council, he works in housing, and there's a refugee there, Victor, who he fell in love with, and he's went back and has a lot of fun with him. So by episode 2, you jump in, and it is kind of like, I took a few months later, and then it jumps a year forward. We found out Edith had actually been poisoned by the nuclear blast, which obviously happened not very far away from where she was. She'd been infected, she'd been poisoned, and the rest of the Lions find that out on TV. Danny's with Victor. He's with Victor now. They live in a family. The other lad, Ralph, is now gone. He's out the picture, although he does make a reappearance in this episode, so that's quite interesting as well. So yeah, Edith is the big main focus. She comes back home, it's celebrated, and there's a scene where they all go drinking. The scene where they all go start drinking, and it's brilliant, because it's such a family sort of, it's funny, but it's so attaching as a family, and I think that's what Russell T Davies does best, is making people feel real. It's not just, none of these people felt like they're reading off a script. They all felt like they are just embodying their character, and I think that's what Russell T Davies is great with writing. He can make people feel real. And he did it with David Tennant's era of Doctor Who, like all the family cast, they all felt like real people, and so do these. And I really, really love that in his work, especially with this. I think he's just done a fantastic job, and the family moments in episode 2 where Edith does come home, I think it is brilliant to see. Victor gets sent into a centre, which then eventually leads to him getting deported out of the UK, all within one episode. So it's a lot that happens, but you feel that connection straight away, and you're like, oh god, you're panicking because you're sort of attached to Danny and how he feels, and he's struggling with it. And to top it off, the end of the episode, the banks fail, and Stephen, who just sold his house for over £1 million, has lost all that money, over £1 million, and that, again, it's not as terrifying as the missile thing, but it's terrifying in another aspect of, can you imagine having that much money and suddenly losing it, and the panic and the fear of, like, what am I going to do? That's terrifying. It's terrifying to me. It should be terrifying to a lot of you as well, especially if you're, in work and you're making money and that sort of thing. It is a terrifying concept to have all of that just gone, especially when it's online banking as well and not in cash. You're just like, I don't know what to do. That's that. Episode 3, pretty much Victor is on the run. He goes all the way through many different countries and ends up in Spain, which is reported on by it. But the main episode kind of follows the Lions in the UK. Not very much of the episode actually takes place abroad. I think Danny does actually go out to Spain at one point to go and meet Victor, which, that touches him. But everything else mainly is happening around the Lions in the UK. Their dad, Vince, passes away and they all go to a funeral, which is a brilliant sequence. Again, playing on that thing, because I didn't actually know the water funeral, I can't remember what it is, the aquatarium or something. That's actually real. That's actually a real thing. Like, that can happen now, I think. So that was, I didn't like that. It was a bit uncomfortable. But yeah, I thought it was quite funny how Edith just necked it. And again, I'm going to talk about characters individually, but Jessica Hines is fantastic in this. Absolutely brilliant. Bethany and her friend go to Liverpool, not telling their parents, and instead heading out to get an eye transplant, so to again merge themselves more with that technology, and her friend gets her eye taken out and replaced with a sort of electronic one. It doesn't work, and that's because these people aren't real specialists. They've done on the cheap, and it's a very clever little tale about, yeah, it may seem like they're getting next level surgery and all that sort of thing, but it's happened for ages. It's people from different countries who will just harvest human organs and everything they can, in this case an eye, and just sell them elsewhere or whatever, just take them. Horrible, but a real thing that still happens today and has done for many, many years. So it's very interesting to see that make an appearance in a future sense as well. I think, again, fantastic writing from Russell T Davies to actually make that work. It's also found out that Stephen is cheating. Not great, since he's got a wife, so boo, shame on Stephen. Episode 4 is fantastic as well, and this is probably the most heartbreaking one for a lot of people. This one is mainly taking place abroad. Danny goes abroad to help Victor escape, get out the country and get back into the UK. They try and go through a tourist bus at first. That doesn't work. They run away. They try and get a fake passport made for him, but Danny gets his passport stolen and a lot of money stolen. So, yeah. And then they try to head off on a refugee boat, and the boat is too packed, and Danny drowns. Danny dies in this episode, and that is... For me, it was totally unexpected. Now, I usually can see these things coming from a mile off in terms of TV. I'm like, yeah, he's going to die. Did not see it this time, and it was really heartbreaking to watch a character that you've actually become very, very attached to just dead like that. That is horrible. That's horrific, and I really, really hate that. But again, it's something that still happens. There's refugees who come in on boats. Not all of them make it. Not all of them survive. They're doing anything to get out of the country. And although Danny didn't have to, I suppose he felt like he had to be there for Victor, and then, but brilliant, again, brilliant with the music, especially. We'll talk about Marie Gold in a bit, but fantastic, absolutely fantastic there. Stephen is found out to be cheating and gets thrown out. A very, very good sequence, and fantastically acted for the character of Celeste as well, doing a fantastic few little speech, as well as Muriel, as well as most of the actors in this TV show are just bloody brilliant. Episode 5, Vivian Rook as PM. We haven't talked about Vivian Rook very much, and we'll get on to her character in just a bit. Erstwhile camps start production, and those are kind of like concentration camps. It's building that up to be about... I can't really describe how good it is, because it's really hard to describe as a TV show. You have to watch it. I can't break it down that well. It is just fabulous. But in episode 5, they kind of build up this whole thing of them starting concentration camps and starting sending the weak there from the UK when refugees come and all that sort of thing. That's where they get sent. That's where they just live to death. Sort of diseases and just die. And that is disgusting and horrible. But again, Vivian Rook makes it sound plausible, and it makes it work, and she makes it sound good, and it's horrible to listen to her and go, hey, you're pretty convincing, but you're talking about concentration camps, that's bad, let's not. It's a very strong, again, with the writing, with the acting, everything is perfect with this. In episode 6, the erstwhile camps are shut down, and there's a fantastic scene where I think it's Edith, and I can't remember her girlfriend's name, but you know who I mean, Victor, all the refugees, as well as Rosie, who are being beamed out by Bethany, who's obviously got control of a technology thing, because now all the advancements in technology and all that sort of thing is improved. So she's spreading the message out, and in every screen in the UK, you've got Edith and all the others just destroying the system, breaking it down and exposing what Vivian Rook's been doing, and it is fantastic. It really is brilliant, and I think it's great to show an emotional moment like that with the sort of the rebellion and the bringing down of the hierarchy and absolutely destroying it, and it's great. And I think it's just a nice message to show generally. It might get bad, but whenever there's a sort of uprising, whenever there's a sort of control of a state, there will always be a rebellion. You know, sometimes it won't work, but sometimes, in this case, it did, and it was absolutely bloody brilliant. We're going to talk more about characters and specifics, because I feel like each one has to have their own sort of thing about them, because there's so many characters in this that it has to. Stephen, played by Rory Kinnear, absolutely brilliantly. Again, fantastic actor, fantastic role, and written really well. You love him in the first 2-3 stories, and then you find out he starts cheating, and then you start to dislike him a little bit, and then he gets kicked out, and you're like, oh, bless him. And then he deports Victor from a safe place into an erstwhile camp, and then you hate him again. And then he almost kills himself in episode 6, and you're like, oh my god, I kind of feel sorry for you again. Fantastically acted, by the way, that scene where you can definitely see the mental struggle of his character as he's like, he wants to kill himself, but he's too scared to, and it's brilliant. It's so well done. Daniel, played by Russell Tovey, a fantastic emotional arc, who definitely, you know, his character is there to care for Victor. Victor is one of the main characters of this whole story, really. You don't see that, but he is. And Daniel is there to complement that story, and you don't realise that until about episode 5 or 6, when Victor really is one of the important ones. Daniel dying is just a plot device. Daniel saving Victor and getting him back into the UK is just a plot device. Daniel, though, is brilliantly acted, and you love him as a character, and when he dies, you really feel it. You do feel that. When I first saw it, I was like, no, and there was actually a few people who were like really upset and really actually annoyed by it, because it is, but again, it was brilliantly done, totally unexpected, and his character was made so loving and brought to life and so lovable by Russell Tovey that I think generally it is down to him and the writing, once again, that made that character work. Edith, played by Jessica Hines. I love Jessica Hines so much. I've seen her in a lot of different things, and whether it's comedy or serious, she absolutely smashes it for me. I think she's fantastic, and in this, she absolutely proves that. I first thought it when she stuck out that knife to the bloke's neck, and I thought, Christ, she's killing it. And it was at the end of episode 6 where she's on every TV and she's doing that speech, and you can feel the emotion and power and strength and all that sort of thing. Just from her, it's fantastic. And her ending, that's one of the negatives, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. I don't really think the whole last 15 minutes of episode 6 works that well, but we'll talk about that, you know, after the characters. But I think Edith as a character, one of my favourites. Absolutely love Jessica Hines in most of the things she does anyway, and this is absolutely no exception. She does a fantastic job, absolutely smashes it out at the park, and I'm just more than happy, and I can't wait to see what she does next in terms of TV, because that's just her. She's fantastic. Rosie, played by Ruth Madeley, is a disabled actress, as I talked about before, which is fantastic again for representation to bring that in. But there's no detraction there. Like, she is equal, if not better, than most of the characters in this show. She is fantastic. She's really well done. She's a lovable character. You get annoyed with her at first because she's got a very passive attitude, which is a little bit like, don't really give a crap about what anyone has to say. I'm just going to say what I want and do what I want, and that's that. And I kind of like that. It was kind of annoying at first, but you start to love her character over time, and especially her relationship with her family. I think by episode 3, when they go to the funeral, I loved her. I think she was brilliant, and she's acting incredibly well. She absolutely smashed it out of the park. And it absolutely goes to show, and I absolutely loved it. I loved her character. I love what they did. I love what she did with it. She totally brought it to life. I can just keep saying the same stuff about the most of the cast today, and I think that's absolutely brilliant. But I'm just going to go through a few more. Muriel, played by Anne Reid, absolutely wonderful. You know, the typical grandma, but absolutely kills it in episode 6 with that speech right at the beginning. It's about a 2-3 minute long speech, and it is bloody brilliant. Sitting at the dinner table, and she's telling us about. I mean, it's a very direct political message, but works very, very well. Celeste, played by Tania Miller, absolutely brilliant. Again, I'm going to keep saying this about everyone, really. She's a side character for a lot of it. She kind of just played a sort of generic character, and I wish we had seen more of her, but she had a brilliant moment where she kicked Stephen out of the house, you know, for cheating. I loved it. And there's very many scenes where she is actually doing a fantastic job. She's just not, I don't think she's given that much of a chance to shine as often as I would have liked, personally. I think she has the ability, and Russell T Davies has the writing ability, but there's so many characters in the show that you have to really focus on the important plot points, whereas she's just kind of not in the forefront, not until episode 6 anyway, where she actually does do stuff. And her acting when she thinks Stephen's going to shoot her is terrifying, and she's crying, and it's just very, very good, and I absolutely loved that. It was great. Victor, played by Maxim Baldry. Yeah, a fantastic job. I'm going to keep saying it with everyone, really, but it's really strange to think how that's the kid from Mr. Bean's Holiday. Mad. He's brilliant in this. Really, 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 really good. A really compelling character, you know, and it takes a lot for an English actor, because the other characters in this, they're English actors playing English characters, generic English family members. He's not. Victor, or Maxim Baldry, is an English man playing someone who's foreign, playing a refugee, playing a totally different character to what he'd be used to as an actual person. And I think that takes an extra level of skill, especially to portray such a very touching topic for a lot of people. I think he did it perfectly. I think the relationship between him and Daniel, perfect, and worked really well, and was definitely convincing. And I think he did a fantastic job, really, to be honest with you. And finally, another one who did a fantastic job, before we get on to the big one, Bethany, played by Lydia West, I think was fantastic. She definitely has a bright future in acting, because although I was a bit like, at first, I was a bit like, going a bit over the top, through the rest of the episodes, and especially in episode 5, 6, maybe even, 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5, 6, I don't know, brilliant. She was fantastic. She absolutely killed it, and as a young actress as well, taking part alongside some pretty well-known actors as well in this show, she absolutely kills it. And the fact that she was a highlight, that just says a lot, really, doesn't it? I think she did a fantastic job, and I actually wouldn't be surprised if we see her in a lot more stuff in the future. She was really, really good in this. Let's talk about Emma Thompson as Vivian Rook. Vivian Rook is a fantastic character that is definitely reminiscent of many politicians. The way, I'll be different, and I'll be seen, and I'll say a few things, and I'll get people's attention, and it shows that a lot of convincing and a lot of manipulation can be quite effective in politics, and there's been a lot of people like that. And it's a great message in there, and I think Muriel says the line about, don't trust the clowns and the jokers of the political lot, because they are the ones who have the darkest motives. They are the ones who will rise to power because people will fall in love with them, and then they'll jump in, and then they'll do something horrible. And that's the prime example with Vivian Rook, is she was lovely and appealing, and literally everything she said, Vivian Rook, I was attached to. I was like, I'd vote for her, that's great. And then, but even the stuff about the erstwhile sites, I wouldn't obviously condone that ever, obviously, but it's the idea that she's making it convincing. And the fact that Emma Thompson and Rusty Davis's writing can make concentration camps sound convincing is totally beyond me. She uses an analogy about oranges, but I don't know, it's just wonderful. I think she does a fantastic job. I'm going to say it with everyone, really, but she absolutely killed it. Emma Thompson especially. In the background, she's not one of the lions, she's totally in the background. She's an MP, then she's the PM. And throughout, she's in the background, but she is heard, and she is bloody brilliant in this. And finally, I think I'm going to talk about Murray Gold's music. Fantastic. I think it's not as good as his era in Doctor Who or stuff like that in terms of bombastic theme, but there's definitely some themes in there that are emotional. The opening theme, obviously, for the years and years, sort of into the future type thing. Love that. That's brilliant. I used that in my I'm Back video that I uploaded on Sunday. Really, really loved his contribution to that. Just everything he did with this show was really good. But I would have liked something a bit more bombastic, a little bit less background and all that sort of thing, bit of a mix. But I do love Murray Gold's music no matter what, really. But I think I just appreciate his stuff in Doctor Who more, mainly because I've probably grown up with that. I didn't really like the ending of episode 6. I did talk about that before. I think the ending of episode 6 was a little bit, I thought it was like, Edith being put into like the Alexa type thing. Her, it was very, I don't know. I feel like that was a very odd ending because it was the last 15 minutes. It wasn't just like a 5-minute thing at the end. It was the last 15 minutes of episode 6. And it was a little bit confusing. I was a little bit like, it's a little bit of a meh. But everything else, especially the original ending of episode 6, like all the way up to that point, I think was perfectly done. Summed up the entire series. And that was a nice optimistic note to end on. But that aside, everything else in the series was fantastic. I think it's one of the best dramas I've seen in a long, long time. Definitely worth a watch if you haven't watched it already. Don't know why you would now, because I've pretty much spoiled everything. But if you haven't seen it, go and watch it. It is fantastic. It's only 6 episodes, and it's on BBC iPlayer. So go and watch it. Do yourself a favour. Watch it. It's good. It's like Black Mirror, but serialised. It's like an actual series, opposed to it being like individual one-offs. It's just a series, and it all feels as dark as Black Mirror. It's brilliant. It's so well done. Russell T Davies, you've done a fantastic job. Murray Gold, you did a brilliant job. All the cast did a fantastically brilliant job. And thank you for this lovely, lovely experience, because I have adored this show from beginning to end. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think that's all fair, really. Anyway, yeah, that's that. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Bit of a long video, sorry about that. Leave a like if you enjoyed, comment below for any more suggestions in the future, subscribe with notifications on if you haven't already. We have a Patreon page, which you can check out in the description below, as well as a Discord server, Twitter, Instagram, all that sort of lovely stuff as well. But yeah, that's pretty much it from me. I'll see you all next time. Have a lovely day. Bye bye.